Good morning, Mets fans, and welcome to a Wednesday edition of Driving with Mr. Met. I am Mr. Met, and today is the trade deadline. And if Noah Syndergaard was auditioning for a new team, well, he couldn't have done better than he did last night. I mean, I guess he could have, but Noah was pretty freaking good last night, keeping the White Sox, holding them scoreless through 6 innings. Getting around some poor defense behind him, which allowed an unearned run to score, but ultimately getting a victory for the team, not for himself. That, of course, thanks to Edwin Diaz, our lights-out closer. I want to talk about last night's game. I want to talk about the deadline and a couple of other things on today's show. If July 30th, 2019 was Noah Syndergaard's swan song with the Mets, it's one that we can certainly remember for sure. He had a no-hitter going through, I think, 4+ innings. He allowed his first hit in the 5th, if I remember correctly. Not long, by the way, after a Gary jinx, where an SNY jinx, I guess, where they showed Noah sitting sort of by himself on the dugout, the back bench of the dugout. Gary had to make a comment about it. And, it's obviously that doesn't have anything to do with what happens on the field, but it's just ironic that it seems like every time Gary mentions something, the opposite happens, or whatever it is he's talking about breaks or whatever. But the thing that didn't break last night was the Mets. They won their 5th straight game, now find themselves 4 games under 500. And last night was, of course, again, thanks to Noah Syndergaard. He pitched extremely well. He pitched into the 8th inning. I think I personally would have left him in the 8th and let him finish the frame. But whatever. Noah was great last night. The bullpen, not so great behind him, with the exception, of course, of. Well, you know what? Let me rephrase that. The bullpen wasn't terrible last night. I'm being unfair. So Justin Wilson throws a pitch that John Jay bunts up in the air. By the way, what the hell were the White Sox doing last night in that scoring opportunity in the 8th inning? Bunting twice with the infield back? With the infield in. I mean, that was a little bit crazy. A little odd choice there by Rick Renteria. But anyhow, Wilson slips after coming in relief of Syndergaard, trying to field the bunt. The bunt drops in, and then Seth Lugo has to come in and put out the fire. And I have to say, I commented that Seth Lugo has ice in his veins on Twitter last night. And then 3 minutes after that, the Mets Twitter account made literally the exact same comment. I called them on it. They didn't respond yet, so I'm waiting for my attorneys to hear from them. But anyway, so Lugo pitches the 3rd of an inning, and then it's Edwin Diaz in the 9th, and the bottom of the 9th. And Diaz was at his worst last night. He was as erratic as ever. He hit he hit a batter, nearly decapitated poor James McCann behind home plate. The catcher hit him. Fortunately, grazed his shoulder before it hit him in the helmet and face area. But just lucky that pitch didn't go more awry than it did. Through two wild pitches, walked the leadoff batter. Just a mess of an inning for Edwin Diaz. And he managed to get out of the inning himself. Did strike out 2 batters in the frame. But look, I want to talk a little bit more about this another time. But Diaz has to come out of the closer's role. He is too erratic and too inconsistent to be trusted as the closer. There's only one person in that bullpen right now who can be trusted, and it is Seth Lugo. And I think you have to go to Seth Lugo as the closer for this team, period. So, back to the game, of course. Diaz allows the tying run to score on a sac fly. Not a great throw from Aaron Altair in center field. There was a question brought up on the broadcast, and I think we all were thinking it at home, why isn't Lagares in center field? And it's not like Lagares had the arm that he used to have, or has the arm that he used to have, but I think his arm is better than Altair's, and maybe it would have been a closer play at the plate. But regardless, the White Sox end up tying the game, costing Noah the win that he most definitely deserved. But it was all for naught on Chicago's part, because a couple of innings later, it was Jeff McNeil who hits a 2-run home run to give the Mets a 2-run cushion, followed up by a Michael Conforto solo shot, which was a bomb. Conforto's third straight game with a home run, rather. And the Mets end up winning 5-2. The other bullpen piece that needs to be discussed today is Robert Gsellman, who pitched real well last night. So kudos to Gsellman for coming in to put out the fire that Diaz started in the bottom of the ninth, keeping the White Sox scoreless for 2 innings and earning himself a victory in the process. So that was the game last night. Again, Mets are now 4 games under 500. They play again tonight with Jacob deGrom on the mound. But of course, as luck would have it for deGrom, he faces the White Sox best pitcher in Lucas Giolito, former Washington Nationals prospect. So it'll be a tall task for deGrom, but the White Sox are a perfect fit for him. They seem to chase pitches. I see him throwing the ball high and getting a ton of swings and misses tonight. So back to last night and back to the lineup from last night. So that's really the other thing I want to focus on today. So McNeil had a nice game with 2 hits. Excuse me. Conforto had 3 hits. Alonso ended up with 2 hits. Rosario had 4 hits in the 8-hole. But the 4, 5, and 6 batters in the lineup were hitless. And the 4 and 5 in particular were 0 for 11. Mets stranded 12 runners in scoring position last night. And you can point the finger straight at Robinson Cano and Wilson Ramos. I don't know what Wilson Ramos' deal was last night, because, he hit 5 balls directly into the ground at shortstop. I don't know what's happening with him. I really don't. I don't know if he's hurt. But he is nowhere near the offensive player that he has been in years past. He is a double play waiting to happen every time he seems to be at the plate. And batting him and Cano back to back, it's like sticking your pitcher in the 4th hole at this point. Cano can no longer be the 4th hitter for this team. He's 0 for 21 since hitting his 3 home run game. And where we all thought, this is the breakout. This is going to be the thing that snaps Cano back to reality, and he's going to have a scorching hot second half, and we're going to be able to ride that to the postseason. Well, at least that's what I thought. The postseason part. I'm sure some people thought about the other thing too, but I'm crazy and I keep thinking the Mets are going to make the playoffs. But no matter what, Ahmed Rosario has now got his batting average of 277. Another multi-hit game. He's got speed. He belongs at the top of the order. So I think it's time to shuffle up the lineup a little bit. I like the idea of keeping Conforto in front of Alonso, because it's giving Michael tons of pitches to hit, and it's putting him in position to succeed. That's what you're supposed to be doing in this game. As far as what I would do with the rest of the lineup, I would actually let Rosario lead off right now. I'd let Rosario lead off, and I'd let McNeil bat second. I'd have Conforto bat third in front of Alonso batting cleanup. Now, here's where things get a little tricky. With Cano and... Jesus Christ almighty. Well, that was nice. Sorry about that, peeps. A gentleman just decided to walk in the middle of the road and didn't bother to see if there was a car coming first, so that was fun. Anyhow, what was I saying? Oh, so after Alonso in the cleanup spot is where things get a little bit tricky, because between Frazier and Davis and Cano and Ramos, you got 4 guys there that are at least 3 of them that are terribly inconsistent, at least this season. And I think your best bet there is to put Davis in the 5 hole and let Davis bat behind Alonso, because he's been the more consistent of the 4. I'd have Cano bat 6th, I'd have Frazier bat 7th, and I'd have Ramos bat 8th. And that's that. Ramos he's got to stay out of these positions where he's got runners on base and he's pounding the ball into the shortstop hole and he's grounding into a double play, which I could turn on him right now. So that's my suggestion there with the lineup. I really think Mickey needs to start shaking things up a little bit, because the left on base situation last night is there's no reason that game should have been as tight as it was, and there's no reason that game should have gone to extra innings. The Mets should have scored 6 or 7 runs in the first 3 or 4 innings off Ronaldo Lopez. And that's that. And they didn't, because of the lineup construction. You bunch those hits together instead of having them being separated by 2 or 3 guys in the order. And I'm talking about Rosario's hits, of course. Changes the dynamic of the game. So, that's my suggestion going forward. We'll see if Mickey changes the lineup. Newsflash, he won't. Cano will be batting fourth again tonight. Maybe he'll be DHing, who knows, but we'll see. We'll see what happens tonight. So that'll wrap it up for today. Again, DeGrom on the hill tonight. That'll be fun. Always nice to watch Jake pitch. Maybe Jacob can get to 500, get to 7-7. It remains to me a travesty that he is a sub 500, has a sub 500 winning percentage. It's just his ERA is now 2.86, and he can't buy a win. So maybe tonight will change his fortunes, and Jake will get himself a W and get himself back to 500 as a win with a winning percentage. So I'll be back tomorrow, either in the morning or right before the game, afternoon game tomorrow. Not sure about the timing on that, and we'll wrap up tonight's game and talk about the finale of this White Sox series tomorrow. So thanks for watching today. I appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter at Mr_Met. And as always, let's go Mets.